Poor photographer was humiliated at a wealthy wedding, but a Chinese millionaire stood up and said, "She is mine." If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching from. We continue. Summer sun beat down on the sidewalks of Chicago when Olivia Sanders climbed the subway stairs on Michigan Avenue. The 28-year-old woman with curly hair and brown skin carried her inseparable camera, hanging from her neck as if it were an extension of her own body. Daughter of a housekeeper and a bus driver from the outskirts of Oakland Park, Olivia had carved out her space in the world of photography with talent and determination. Her small studio in Wicker Park was a refuge where she could express her unique vision of the world, capturing the truth behind people's gazes, the essence that people tried to hide. The cell phone vibrated in the pocket of her worn jeans. It was a text message she would never have expected to receive. "Olivia, this is Jessica Bennett. Remember me? I'm getting married next month, and I want you to be my photographer. I know you've become talented. Get in touch to discuss the details." Olivia felt butterflies in her stomach. Jessica Bennett. The name evoked memories of a shared childhood in Oakland Park, before life separated them along drastically different paths. Daughters of the same neighborhood, they studied together until high school, when Jessica's father, a small business owner, won the lottery and decided to move to Lincoln Park, an upscale neighborhood in the city. From there, the distance between them became inevitable. "How did she get my number?" thought Olivia, entering a cafe to take shelter from the heat while typing a response. Through social media, Olivia knew that Jessica had become a luxury social media influencer, always displaying international trips, designer clothes and dinners at starred restaurants. Her fiancé, Henry Ashford, was heir to one of the largest construction companies in the country. "A regular coffee, please," she asked the attendant, while trying to process that unexpected invitation. In the following days, Olivia researched more about Jessica's current life. She discovered that, besides being an influencer, she had become a partner in a renowned modeling agency and held charity events attended by the cream of Chicago society. Her wedding promised to be the social event of the year, with coverage by celebrity magazines and a guest list that included politicians, businessmen, and artists. After a brief exchange of messages, they arranged to meet at the Willis Tower, an iconic building in downtown Chicago, where Olivia would do a photo shoot for another client. Jessica appeared impeccably dressed, with Prada sunglasses, and a dress that certainly cost more than 3 months' rent for Olivia's studio. "Liv!" exclaimed Jessica, opening her arms for a forced hug. "How simple and authentic you look, as always." BTC's condescending tone didn't go unnoticed, but Olivia took a deep breath and smiled. It had always been like this since Jessica had changed her life. "It's good to see you after so long, Jess," she replied sincerely. Despite everything, there was a genuine affection for their shared memories. "So, about the wedding." Jessica was direct as they sat down in a fancy cafe. "It will be at the Langham Hotel with 500 guests. I want something unique, you know. Something that makes people sigh when they see the photos in magazines." While Jessica talked non-stop about the requirements for the photographs, Olivia observed the small changes in her face. The thinner nose, fuller lips, expressionless forehead. The girl who had once shared sandwiches with her at recess now looked like a porcelain doll. "Why me?" asked Olivia when Jessica finally paused. "You could hire any famous photographer." Jessica smiled, adjusting a strand of perfectly straightened hair. "I saw your work at the Faces of America exhibition. You have a different eye. Besides," she lowered her voice, "it would make a great story to tell, wouldn't it? The photographer from the hood who captures the wedding of her childhood friend who made it." Olivia's stomach turned, but she kept her expression neutral. The wedding would be a significant professional opportunity, regardless of Jessica's intentions. "My fee isn't cheap," she warned, perhaps expecting a reaction of surprise. Jessica laughed. "Money isn't a problem, darling. I'll pay double what you usually charge." The following week, Olivia visited the Langham Hotel to explore the spaces and plan the photographs. The luxury was oppressive. Crystals, Italian marble, impeccable gardens. As she walked through the halls, she felt like an intruder in that world. Still, her trained eye was already capturing angles and lights, imagining how she would translate all of that into images that went beyond ostentation. On the way back to her apartment in Pilsen, central but still accessible neighborhood, Olivia received a call from Samantha, her best friend and assistant. "So, how was it at the princess's castle?" asked Samantha, with her usual sarcasm. "Surreal," Olivia replied, as she walked to the bus stop. "There's a chandelier in the main hall that probably costs more than all the equipment in our studio combined. Are you sure you want to do this? You always said you didn't photograph plastic people." Olivia sighed, watching the bus approach. "It's a job, Sam, and it pays well. Besides, I confess I'm curious to see what this world is like up close, not to be part of it, but to document it through my lenses." The day before the wedding, Olivia organized all her equipment: professional cameras, various lenses, flashes, reflectors, computer for immediate backup of images, everything meticulously checked. Samantha would help her as an assistant and second photographer. That night, lying in her simple bed in the one-bedroom apartment, Olivia looked at the framed photographs on the wall. They were black and white portraits, her mother Donna with hands marked by work, her father Martin in his driver's uniform, old Mr. Thompson, the homeless man who always told stories in Wicker Park, the tamale vendor from Logan Square. Real people, with stories etched in their expressions. Tomorrow will just be another job, she thought, trying to convince herself. I'll photograph the event and deliver the images like a professional. But something inside her knew that wedding would be a turning point in her life. What Olivia couldn't imagine was that, amidst the luxury and ostentation, her destiny would change forever when her eyes met those of a man who, like her, seemed out of place in that environment of excess. At 5:30 in the morning, the alarm clock rang. It was time to prepare to record the happiest day in Jessica Bennett's life, not knowing it would also be the beginning of a new journey for herself. The Langham Hotel gleamed under the Saturday afternoon sun. Olivia arrived 3 hours before the ceremony, wearing black pants and a white shirt, the discreet uniform she adopted for formal jobs. Her curly hair was tied in a low bun, and her makeup was minimal. The simplicity of her appearance contrasted with the sumptuous environment. Samantha, who drove the car rented for the occasion, whistled when she saw the decoration being finalized. "Looks like a movie set, Liv. How much do you think all this costs?" "Better not to think about it," replied Olivia, adjusting the strap of her equipment bag. "Let's work." The two were led by an event coordinator to the suite where Jessica was preparing with her beauty team. The bride, wrapped in a silk robe, was surrounded by 6 women: makeup artist, hairstylist, manicurist, stylist, and 2 assistants. A glass of French champagne rested beside her. "Olivia!" "Finally!" exclaimed Jessica when she saw her. "You can start recording the preparations. I want everything documented, every detail." Without saying a word, Olivia began to work. Her camera captured the moments with precision, the Givenchy dress hanging like a work of art, the Tiffany and Co jewelry carefully arranged on velvet, the bouquet of rare orchids. Behind the lens, she felt protected, like an invisible observer of that spectacle of vanity. While photographing, Olivia heard the superficial conversations. Jessica and her friends, all with the same inflated lips and identical eyebrows, talked about other socialites, criticized clothes and bodies of others, commented on trips to Dubai and the Maldives. Not a word about love, about the meaning of marriage, about the shared future with Henry. At noon, Henry Ashford sent a bouquet of red roses with a card. Jessica read it aloud to her friends. "To the most dazzling woman in America, our wedding will be on the cover of all magazines. Love you, H." The women sighed in unison, as if that message represented the pinnacle of romance. Olivia continued photographing, her finger pressing the shutter with more force than necessary. Guests began arriving at 4 p.m. Olivia and Samantha divided themselves between the garden where the ceremony would take place and the hall where the reception would be held. It was a parade of power and ostentation, Influential politicians, celebrities, businessmen, all displaying designer clothes and extravagant jewelry. Conversations revolved around business, properties in Miami and the Hamptons, new imported car models. That's when Olivia first noticed him. A man of approximately 35 years, Asian features softened by American multiracial heritage, observing the movement with an analytical expression. Unlike other guests, he didn't seem interested in being seen or noticed. He wore an elegant suit but without ostentation, and didn't carry that air of superiority so common to others. He was alone, sipping a glass of water with lemon, while his eyes scrutinized the environment. Instinctively, Olivia directed her camera toward him. Through the viewfinder, she observed how the man seemed displaced amid that display of wealth. When she adjusted the focus, their gazes met. He smiled discreetly, as if recognizing in her an equal, someone who was also observing that world without really belonging to it. The ceremony began punctually at 5 p.m. Jessica emerged dazzling, like a vision in white and pearls, walking to the sound of a chamber orchestra. Henry waited at the altar with a rehearsed smile. Everything was perfect, meticulously planned for the photographs that would grace magazines and feed the envy of others. Olivia worked tirelessly, recording each moment, each detail. Her concentration was absolute, her technique impeccable. No one could say she wasn't an exemplary professional. During the reception, while photographing groups of guests, Olivia felt a presence beside her. It was the man with Asian features. She had noticed earlier. "Your photographs seem to capture more than the obvious," he said, with a deep and melodious voice. "I can tell by the way you observe before photographing." Olivia smiled, surprised by the perceptive comment. "Thank you. I try to see beyond the surface." "I'm Nathan Chen," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "Friend of the groom's family, although I feel like a fish out of water at these events." "Olivia Sanders, photographer for the event," she replied, briefly shaking his hand. "And I also feel like an intruder." He smiled, his dark eyes shining with genuine interest. "Do you know the bride? We grew up together in Oakland Park. We were childhood friends. And now you're documenting her big day. What an interesting journey." Something about the way Nathan spoke, without pretension or artificiality, made Olivia feel instantly comfortable. Before they could continue the conversation, however, she was called to photograph the cake-cutting moment. The rest of the night went by in a whirlwind. The party grew increasingly exuberant, with performances by famous artists, fireworks, and a profusion of imported food and drinks. Olivia continued working, her feet aching inside her closed shoes, but her determination unwavering. Around 11 p.m., when some guests were already showing the effects of alcohol, Jessica called Olivia for a photograph with the bridesmaids. Olivia handed the camera to Samantha and positioned herself uncomfortably next to the bride. "I want to make a toast to my photographer," announced Jessica, raising a crystal glass. "Olivia and I grew up together in the same humble neighborhood. Look at us now. Me, a successful businesswoman, marrying the man of my dreams in this palace, and she remains authentic with her simple style, right?" The laughter that followed made Olivia's face burn with shame. Jessica continued. "Little Olivia always had talent, but never ambition. While I built my image and my fortune, she preferred to stay photographing common people, portraying the true essence, as she says." Jessica made air quotes, provoking more laughter. "That's why I hired her. Who better to document my success than someone who chose the opposite path?" The embarrassed silence that followed was deafening. Olivia felt the blood drain from her face as all attention turned to her. The bridesmaids disguised their discomfort with forced smiles. Some guests cleared their throats, others averted their gaze. "Actually," a male voice cut through the silence, "I think the bride doesn't understand the true value of Ms. Sanders' art." Everyone turned to the owner of the voice. It was Nathan Chen, approaching with firm steps. "Excuse the intrusion," he continued, "but I had the privilege of seeing some of Ms. Sanders' photographs at the Faces of America exhibition at the EC Art Institute. Her work reveals a depth and authenticity rarely found in commercial photographers who typically document events like this." Jessica blinked, visibly irritated by the interruption. "Nathan, dear, we were just joking between friends. Ms. Sanders' art isn't a matter of choosing a path opposite to success," Nathan continued, ignoring Jessica's comment. "On the contrary, it's a search for truth in a world that values appearances too much. That, to me, represents the highest type of success." Olivia's eyes met Nathan's, and she felt a wave of gratitude for the unexpected defense. For the first time that night, she didn't feel invisible or inferior. "If you'll allow me," Nathan concluded, taking a champagne glass from a nearby tray, "I'd like to make a toast to authentic art and the sensitive eye of Ms. Sanders, which will certainly elevate the photographs of this event beyond the obvious and superficial." A murmur ran through the group as guests raised their glasses, some out of politeness, others out of genuine appreciation for the small act of rebellion amid that celebration of conformity. Jessica, with her face red from anger and embarrassment, forced a smile for the cell phone cameras recording the moment. Her eyes, however, shot daggers in Olivia's direction. "Thank you for your words, Mr. Chen," said Olivia, regaining her composure. "Now, if you'll... Excuse me, I need to get back to work." As she moved away to retrieve her camera, Olivia felt a hand lightly touch her arm. It was Nathan. "Sorry if I caused embarrassment," he said quietly, "but I couldn't stay silent in the face of that gratuitous humiliation." "Don't worry," replied Olivia with a sincere smile. "It was unexpectedly comforting." "When you finish your work here, I'd like to talk about a project. I have a proposal that might interest you." Before Olivia could respond, Nathan handed her a discreet and elegant card, then walked away. The card simply said, "Nathan Chen, Director of the Chen Foundation for Visual Arts," followed by a phone number and an address in Chinatown. A week after the wedding, Olivia still hadn't contacted Nathan Chen. The card rested on her work desk in the small Wicker Park studio, where she spent hours editing the event's photographs. The images were technically perfect. Impeccable composition, precise lighting, moments captured with mastery. But something bothered her deeply. "There's something wrong with these photos," she commented to Samantha, who was organizing. "Equipment on the other side of the studio." "Wrong how?" asked the assistant, approaching to look at the monitor. "They look great to me," Olivia sighed, leaning back in her chair. "They're empty. Perfect in technique, empty in essence, like the bride and groom themselves." Samantha shrugged. "That's what they want, isn't it? Perfection to display on social media. Nobody's interested in the truth." "I am," murmured Olivia, looking at one photograph in particular. It was an image of Jessica and Henry cutting the cake. Perfect smiles, elegant posture, golden light bathing the couple like a divine blessing. In the background, blurred but still recognizable, was Nathan Chen, observing the scene with a thoughtful expression that contrasted with the artificial joy of the other guests. On impulse, Olivia took the card and dialed the number. "Chen Foundation." "Good afternoon," answered a female voice. "Good afternoon. I'd like to speak with Mr. Nathan Chen. This is Olivia Sanders, the photographer." After a few seconds of waiting, Nathan's deep and serene voice sounded from the other end of the line. "Ms. Sanders, what a pleasure to hear from you. I was waiting for your call." "Sorry for the delay," replied Olivia. "I've been busy editing the wedding photos, I imagine. And how are you feeling after that night?" The question, so direct and yet so careful, took Olivia by surprise. No one usually asked how she felt. "Honestly, I'm feeling empty, like I spent hours documenting a big lie." There was a brief silence before Nathan responded. "That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. I have a proposal that might help you recover your connection with authentic photography. Could you meet me today at 6 p.m. at the foundation?" Olivia hesitated for a moment. She had promised herself to finish the editing that day. "Could it be at 7 p.m., she suggested? "Perfect," replied Nathan. "I'll be waiting." The Chen Foundation for Visual Arts occupied a renovated historic mansion on Wentworth Avenue in the heart of Chinatown. The facade preserved the original architecture from the 1920s, but the interior had been modernized to house art galleries, studios, and a small auditorium. When Olivia arrived, punctually at 7 p.m., she was greeted by a receptionist who led her through corridors decorated with contemporary photographs and paintings. The place breathed art, without the typical pretension of commercial galleries. Nathan waited for her in a spacious office on the second floor. The windows offered a view of the Chinese garden in Chinatown Square, illuminated by traditional red lanterns. He wore dark pants and a blue linen shirt, more casual than the suit at the party, but equally elegant. "Welcome," he said, standing up to greet her. "Would you like some tea?" "With pleasure," replied Olivia, sitting in a comfortable armchair. While Nathan prepared the tea in a Japanese ceramic set, Olivia observed the environment. The walls displayed photographs of ordinary people in everyday situations: a fisherman at Lake Michigan, an elderly woman making cornbread in Kentucky, children playing football in the Cabrini Green projects. They were powerful images that captured the American essence without romanticization or prejudice. "Are these yours?" she asked, indicating the photographs. Nathan smiled, handing her a steaming cup. "Yes, photography is my secret passion. Although I manage the foundation and the family businesses, it's through the lens that I really see the world." "They're extraordinary," commented Olivia sincerely. "They capture people's souls." "That's exactly what I seek to do," said Nathan, sitting across from her. "And what I saw in your work at the Art Institute exhibition, you also seek the soul behind appearances." Olivia felt flattered by the genuine recognition of her work. "So what's your proposal?" she asked after taking a sip of jasmine tea. Nathan placed his cup on the center table and leaned forward, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "I'm organizing an exhibition called Contrasts, Real America versus Showcase America. I want to juxtapose images of the American elite, with all their ostentation and artificiality, with photographs of ordinary Americans, with their authenticity and dignity. Not to judge, but to provoke reflection on what we really value as a society." "Sounds fascinating," commented Olivia, already imagining the possibilities. "And after seeing your work, and especially after witnessing how you were treated at that wedding, I realized you would be the perfect partner for this project." Olivia frowned, placing the cup on the table. "I don't want to be part of a project motivated by pity." Nathan shook his head emphatically. "This isn't about pity, Olivia. It's about perspective. You've lived in both worlds, grew up in a humble environment, know the American reality, but have also had access to privileged circles through your work. This duality of perspectives is exactly what the project needs." Olivia considered his words. It was true that her journey allowed her to see American social contradictions clearly, and the idea of using her art to provoke reflection had always been her greater goal. "How would this partnership work?" she finally asked. "You would have total creative freedom. The foundation would fund all your expenses, provide additional equipment if needed, and you would receive a substantial fee. In exchange, I would only ask that you share your authentic vision without filters or concessions." "And the wedding photographs, did you intend to use them?" Nathan smiled with understanding. "Only if you consider it appropriate and ethical. I don't want to compromise your professional relationship with clients." Olivia reflected for a moment. Technically, the photographs belonged to the bride and groom after delivery, but there were behind-the-scenes images, moments not included in the final package, that revealed much about that world of appearances. "I need to think," she replied honestly. "It's a tempting proposal, but I have concerns about the implications." "I completely understand," said Nathan, leaning back in the armchair. "Why don't we start with a coffee tomorrow if you're available? We can talk more about the project without commitment." There was something in the way Nathan treated her, with genuine respect for her art and her concerns, that made Olivia feel valued in a way she had rarely experienced in her career. "Coffee would be great," she agreed, smiling. The next day they met at a coffee shop in Bucktown, a bohemian neighborhood known for its cultural effervescence. The conversation flowed naturally, covering everything from photographic techniques to philosophy of art. Olivia discovered that Nathan, despite his privileged position as heir to a family of Chinese-American entrepreneurs, had a critical and compassionate view of society. My grandparents came to America with nothing, he told her, while they shared a carrot cake. They worked in factories in Detroit, suffered prejudice but persisted. My father expanded the small business they had established in Chinatown into an import and export network. He taught me to value our roots and never forget the difficulties we faced. That's a beautiful story, commented Olivia. My family never achieved that rise. My parents still live in the same house in Oakland Park where I grew up. And that shaped your photographic eye, observed Nathan. There's an honesty in your images that only comes from lived experience. In the following days, the meetings became frequent. They visited exhibitions together, photographed the streets of Chicago, discussed literature and cinema. An unexpected connection was blossoming between them, not just professional but personal. 2 weeks after their first meeting, Olivia finally made her decision. She handed Nathan a flash drive containing a careful selection of photographs from the wedding, images that revealed the superficiality and emptiness behind the spectacle. These are mine, not in the contract with the bride and groom, she explained, and I want to participate in the project. Nathan smiled, genuinely happy with the decision. We're going to create something meaningful together, Olivia, something that makes people think. In the following weeks, they immersed themselves in the project with passion and dedication. Olivia documented the daily lives of workers, families from the outskirts, street artists, while Nathan used his contacts to record exclusive events of the Chicago elite. Together, they edited and selected images, creating powerful juxtapositions that revealed American social contradictions. The intimacy between them grew naturally. They shared not just artistic ideas, but also personal stories, fears, and dreams. Nathan showed Olivia a side of Chicago she didn't know: authentic Chinese restaurants hidden in Chinatown, peaceful Buddhist temples, alternative cultural spaces. She, in turn, took him to meet the outskirts where she grew up, introduced him to her parents and childhood friends. During a weekend photographing on the Michigan lakeshore, staying at a simple inn in New Buffalo, the inevitable happened. After a day capturing images of local fishermen, they sat on the beach to watch the sunset. The conversation, as always, flowed with ease and depth. I never imagined I would find someone who saw the world like I do, confessed Nathan, his eyes fixed on the colorful horizon. Neither did I, replied Olivia, feeling her heart accelerate. It's as if someone finally really sees me. When their eyes met, there was no longer any way to deny what they felt. The kiss that followed was gentle and natural, as if their lips had known each other from other lives. That night, under the starry sky of New Buffalo, more than an artistic partnership was born, a love grounded in mutual respect and genuine admiration. Back in Chicago, they continued working on the project with renewed enthusiasm. The exhibition was taking shape and promised to be a significant event in the city's cultural scene. However, in the same proportion that their relationship and project flourished, a shadow was also growing on the horizon. The Chen family was beginning to show concern about Nathan's involvement with an unknown photographer from the outskirts. The first sign of trouble came during a dinner at the Chen family home, a traditional mansion in Lincoln Park. Nathan had insisted that Olivia accompany him, saying it was important to formally introduce her to the family. Despite her apprehension, she accepted the invitation. The house was an elegant fusion of Chinese and American architecture, carefully maintained Zen gardens, dark wood panels, and contemporary artwork. Sitting at the dinner table, Olivia felt the weight of the evaluative gazes of Gerald and Emily Chen, Nathan's parents. "So, Miss Sanders," began Gerald, a 60-year-old man with a rigid posture and impassive expression, "Nathan told us you're a photographer." "Yes, Mr. Chen," replied Olivia, trying to keep her voice firm. "I work mainly with documentary photography." "Interesting," commented Gerald, although his tone suggested otherwise. "And is that a lucrative profession?" Nathan intervened before Olivia could respond. "Dad, Olivia is an award-winning artist. Her work has been exhibited at the Art Institute and international galleries." "Art," sighed Emily. serving herself a little more sake. So unpredictable. I never understood why you insist on this hobby, Nathan, when the family businesses require full attention. It's not a hobby, Mum, replied Nathan with polite firmness. It's an essential form of expression and communication. The tension was palpable. Nathan's older sister, Alison, a 37-year-old executive who had strictly followed family expectations, observed Olivia with clinical curiosity. I read about your exhibition at the Art Institute, commented Alison. Your work has an interesting rawness, quite different from what we're used to in our circles. Olivia wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a veiled criticism. She opted for diplomacy. Different perspectives enrich the artistic scene. That's what Nathan and I seek with our joint project. Ah, yes, the famous project, said Gerald, with a tense smile. Nathan, perhaps we could talk about this in private after dinner. The rest of the meal passed in superficial conversation about weather and economic policy. Olivia noticed the glances exchanged between members of the Chen family, silent messages she couldn't fully decipher, but whose general meaning was clear. She didn't belong in that world. After dinner, while Emily politely showed Olivia the garden, Nathan was called to his father's office. Through the glass doors, Olivia could see agitated gestures and serious expressions, although she couldn't hear the conversation. On the way back to Olivia's apartment, Nathan remained silent for several minutes before finally speaking. They questioned the project and our relationship. Olivia felt a knot in her stomach. What exactly did they say? Nathan sighed, keeping his eyes on the road. That I'm risking the Foundation's reputation with a politically charged exhibition. That we should focus on more universal, less divisive art. He paused. And they suggested that our relationship could be detrimental to the family's image. Because I'm poor? Asked Olivia directly. Because you're controversial, replied Nathan, making air quotes with one hand, which translated from Chen language means exactly what you said. Olivia looked out the window, watching the city lights passing in blurs. It was a story as old as time, the rich family disapproving of the girlfriend from humble origins. And what did you answer? Nathan parked the car in front of Olivia's building in Pilsen and turned to face her. I said I love you, that I believe in our project, and that with all due respect to family traditions, I have the right to choose my own path. Olivia's heart accelerated upon hearing those words. It was the first time Nathan had said he loved her. You said that? That you love me? He smiled, gently touching her face. I did, and I'm saying it now directly to you. I love you, Olivia Sanders. Your strength, your authenticity, your talent, everything about you fascinates me. That night, as they made love in Olivia's small apartment, the opposition of the Chen family seemed distant and irrelevant. What mattered was the connection. They had found rare, deep, and true, but reality was quick to impose itself. The following week, during a meeting at the Foundation, Nathan was informed that the Administrative Council, composed mostly of family members and close friends, had voted against funding the Contrasts exhibition. They claimed the theme as too controversial and could alienate important donors, explained Nathan to Olivia as they walked through Millennium Park. Obviously, it's just an excuse. And now? Asked Olivia, trying to hide her disappointment. Do we abandon the project? Nathan stopped walking and held her hands. Never. I'll finance it personally. I have my own savings, investments independent of the family businesses. We can rent a gallery in Bucktown or downtown. It will be smaller than the Foundation space, but still impactful. His determination moved Olivia. Nathan was willing to challenge his family, risk his position, all for the project they shared and the relationship they were building. Are you sure? I don't want to be the cause of a rupture between you and your family. You're not the cause. Olivia, the cause is their prejudice, their inability to see beyond social conventions. He smiled with determination. Besides, maybe it's time for a small revolution in the Chen dynasty. In the following weeks, they worked tirelessly. They rented an independent gallery on Milwaukee Avenue, hired a designer for the catalogue, and began promoting the exhibition in artistic circles. The project gained attention from specialized media. especially after an interview with the Chicago Tribune, where they discussed the proposal to contrast the two Americas. That's when the second blow came. During lunch at Olivia's apartment, Nathan received a call from his sister Allison. "What, when?" Nathan stood up abruptly, his face pale. "I'm going there now." Hanging up the phone, he explained to Olivia, "My father had a heart attack. He's at Northwestern Memorial Hospital." Olivia accompanied him immediately. At the hospital, they found the entire Chen family gathered in the private waiting room. Emily was visibly shaken, but when she saw Olivia entering with Nathan, her gaze hardened. "What is she doing here?" she asked in a low voice but audible. "This is a time for family." Nathan squeezed Olivia's hand more firmly. "Olivia is important to me, Mum. She stays." Allison intervened, always the diplomat. "Let's focus on Dad now, okay? The doctor said he's stable, but will need surgery." The following hours were tense. Gerald underwent an angioplasty and, fortunately, responded well to the procedure. When they were finally able to see him, Nathan entered the room first, followed by Emily and Allison. Olivia waited outside, respecting the family moment. Later, when Nathan came out of the room, his countenance was grave. "My father asked to speak to me alone," he said, leading Olivia to an isolated corner of the corridor. He associated the stress from our project and relationship with his heart attack. Said I'm killing him with worry. "That's emotional manipulation, Nathan," replied Olivia, indignant. "I know, but I also know that my father truly believes this. For him, I'm betraying family values, risking everything they built." Nathan ran his hands through his hair in a gesture of frustration. "He gave me an ultimatum. Either I abandon the project and end our relationship, or I'll be removed from the Foundation's board and lose my position in the family businesses." Olivia felt as if the air had been sucked from her lungs. It was exactly what she feared from the beginning. Being the reason Nathan would lose his family, his inheritance, everything that constituted his identity. "What are you going to do?" she asked in a thin voice. Nathan stared at her, his eyes reflecting the internal conflict. Tearing him apart. "I don't know. Olivia, I honestly don't know." The following days were painful. Nathan was constantly at the hospital, accompanying his father's recovery. When they managed to meet, the shadow of the ultimatum hung over them. Olivia could feel Nathan emotionally distancing himself, torn between the love he felt for her and loyalty to his family. A week after Gerald's heart attack, Olivia received an unexpected visit at her studio. Allison Chen, elegant in a grey pantsuit, entered with the confident posture of someone accustomed to being in command. "Miss Sanders," she greeted formally, "may we talk?" Olivia indicated a chair, trying to hide her surprise and apprehension. "How can I help you, Miss Chen?" Allison observed the studio with genuine interest, pausing at the photographs displayed on the walls. "You have talent. That's undeniable," she commented, before turning her attention to Olivia. "I came here to be direct. My brother is suffering. He loves you, but he also loves our family. This conflict is destroying him." "I wasn't the one who created this conflict," replied Olivia calmly. "It was your family's intolerance." To her surprise, Allison nodded. "You're right. We are products of our upbringing and status. My parents came from a generation that fought hard to establish our family in America, facing prejudice and difficulties. They cling to traditions and status as a form of protection." "And you?" asked Olivia. "Do you also cling to that?" "I'm pragmatic," replied Allison with a small smile, "and observant. I've seen how Nathan has changed since he met you. He's more alive, more passionate about what he does. That has value." Olivia frowned, confused by the direction of the conversation. "What exactly do you want, Mrs. Chen?" Allison leaned forward, her eyes fixed on Olivia's. "I want to propose a deal. The Foundation will fund your exhibition, with some modifications to the approach to make it less confrontational. In exchange, you and Nathan will moderate the public exposure of your relationship, at least until my father fully recovers." "You're asking me to hide our relationship? To dilute our art?" "I'm asking for a compromise, Miss Sanders. Not forever. just enough for my family to get used to the idea, for them to know you beyond the initial prejudices." Olivia considered the proposal. Part of her wanted to refuse immediately. It would be a concession to everything she had always fought against in her art. On the other hand, perhaps it was an opportunity to build bridges instead of walls. "I need to think," she finally said, "and talk with Nathan." Alison stood up, elegantly adjusting her blazer. "Of course, but remember, sometimes true courage is in knowing when to yield a little to gain much more later." When Alison left, Olivia remained seated, contemplating. The Contrasts Project photographs scattered across her desk, images that juxtaposed wealth and poverty, artifice and authenticity. Now her own life seemed like one of those juxtapositions, the genuine love she had found with Nathan against the social expectations that separated them. That night, when she finally managed to speak with Nathan on the phone, he sounded exhausted. "Your sister visited me today," said Olivia, after hearing about Gerald's health condition. "Alison?" The surprise was evident in Nathan's voice. What did she want? "To propose a deal. The foundation supports our exhibition if we soften the content and keep our relationship discreet for a while." There was a long silence before Nathan responded. "What do you think about that?" "I don't know," admitted Olivia. "Part of me feels like I'd be betraying my principles. Another part thinks that maybe it's a way to open doors, to show your art to people who normally wouldn't see it." "And about us?" asked Nathan, his voice almost a whisper. "Could you live like that, hiding what we feel?" The question hit Olivia deeply. Throughout her life she had fought for authenticity, for being true to herself and her art. The idea of hiding her love for Nathan, of pretending to be just his colleague, seemed like a betrayal of everything she believed in. "No," she finally answered. "I couldn't. And you?" "Neither could I," Nathan's voice gained firmness. "Olivia, I love you. I love the life we've begun to build together. I don't want to give that up." "And your family? The businesses?" "They're important to me, of course. But I realize something in these days away from you. None of it makes sense if I can't be who I really am. And part of who I am now is connected to you, to our work together, to the vision we share." Nathan's words warmed Olivia's heart. Even so, she couldn't ignore the reality of the consequences. "Are you sure? It's a decision that could change your life forever." "I'm sure." The determination in his voice was unwavering. "Tomorrow I'm going to talk to my family. I won't yield to my father's ultimatum. If he truly loves me, he'll eventually understand my choice." That night, alone in her apartment, Olivia contemplated the moon through the window. The life she had imagined for herself, dedicated exclusively to her art, without emotional or family complications, had completely transformed in recent months. Now she was at the center of a family drama worthy of the soap operas her mother religiously watched. But there was something liberating in that situation too. For the first time, she felt truly loved for who she was, not despite her humble origins or her artistic choices, but exactly because of them. Nathan saw in her the strength and authenticity that others saw as stubbornness or naivety. In Chicago's horizon, the lights of the skyscrapers shone like artificial stars. Somewhere in that urban immensity, Nathan was also contemplating the same sky, preparing for a battle that would change the course of their lives. The front page of the Chicago Tribune displayed a headline that made Olivia choke on her breakfast. "Coffee. Chen Family Heir Leaves Foundation Board to pursue independent artistic career." The report detailed how Nathan Chen, after creative differences with the board, decided to temporarily distance himself from the administration of the foundation that bore his family's name to explore new artistic horizons. The phone rang. It was Samantha. "Have you seen the newspaper? Your boyfriend is in all the society columns." "I'm seeing it now," replied Olivia, still stunned. "I didn't know he would do this so quickly." Nathan's decision had been drastic. After a heated discussion with his parents, he opted to leave the foundation's board, maintaining only his shares in the family companies, something they legally couldn't take from him. Gerald, still recovering, had been furious. Emily devastated. Only Alison had shown some understanding, although she disagreed with her brother's approach. "So, now what? Are you really going ahead with the exhibition?" asked Samantha. "Yes. Nathan rented a space at the Flatiron Gallery. The opening will be in 2 months. Wow, Liv, you really turned this guy's life upside down." "That wasn't my intention," replied Olivia, feeling a mixture of guilt and admiration for Nathan's courage. "He says he's just being true to himself, for the first time." After hanging up, Olivia remained looking at the news report. There was a small paragraph mentioning that Nathan would be working on a collaborative photographic project with documentary photographer Olivia Sanders. Her name there, printed next to his, made everything more real. Her cell phone vibrated with a message from Nathan. "Good morning, love. Saw the newspaper. Sorry for not warning you beforehand. We need to talk. Can I come over in an hour?" When Nathan arrived, he looked simultaneously exhausted and relieved. He hugged Olivia for a long time before sitting on the small sofa in her apartment. "Are you okay?" she asked, serving him coffee. "I am." He smiled, accepting the cup. "It's strange, but I feel lighter despite everything, as if I'd left a weight behind. Your family." The smile disappeared. "My father said he doesn't want to see me for a while. My mother is between anger and concern. Alison is the only one still talking to me normally." "I'm sorry," said Olivia, sitting beside him. "I never wanted to be the reason for a rupture in your family." Nathan took her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. "You're not the reason, Olivia. You were just the catalyst for something that was already latent within me. The dissatisfaction with the predetermined path, the desire to do something meaningful with my art, that was always there. You gave me the courage to embrace who I really am." Those words comforted Olivia, although the concern persisted. She knew well the value of family, having grown up in a home where mutual support was essential for survival. "Do you think they'll eventually forgive you?" "I hope so," replied Nathan with a sigh. "My family can be traditional and stubborn, but they're also united. When they see that I'm happy and fulfilled, maybe they'll accept my choices. We need to give it time." In the following weeks, they immersed themselves completely in the work. The Contrasts exhibition was taking shape, now with an even broader scope. Without the Foundation's restrictions, Nathan and Olivia could explore more provocative angles of American inequality. It was during this intense period of work that Olivia received an unexpected notification on her Instagram. Jessica Bennett had posted a wedding photo, taken by Olivia, with the caption, "Throwback to the most perfect day of my life, captured by the talented Olivia Sanders photo, my childhood friend who's making waves." "Hypocrite," muttered Olivia, showing the post to Nathan, who was working on his laptop in the studio. "After publicly humiliating me, now she wants to take advantage of the attention we're receiving." "Typical," commented Nathan, adjusting the glasses he used for close work. "People like Jessica live by appearances. She noticed you're gaining visibility and wants to associate her name with yours." Olivia continued scrolling through Jessica's feed, something she rarely did. The images showed an apparently perfect life. International trips, sophisticated dinners, designer clothes, always alongside her husband Henry, who mechanically smiled for the camera. "It's all so artificial," she commented. "As if life were a constant showcase." "That's exactly what our exhibition wants to show," replied Nathan, "the difference between reality and appearance." Olivia stopped at a particular photo that caught her attention. Jessica posed alongside an elderly woman in a charity institution. The caption read, "Visiting St. Monica's home today, always moving to be able to help those in need. Social responsibility, charity without flash." Something in that image deeply bothered Olivia. Jessica's forced expression, the way she held the elderly woman's hand as if touching something unpleasant, the contradiction with the attitude she had witnessed at the wedding. "Do you know this St. Monica's home?" she asked Nathan. "Yes, it's an institution for underprivileged elderly in the East Side. My family donated to them a few times." An idea began to form in Olivia's mind. What if She investigated Jessica's apparent charity work more deeply. It would be interesting to include in the exhibition an analysis of how the elite used social works for self-promotion. In the following days, Olivia did her research. She discovered that Jessica was a patron of various charity institutions, always appearing at benefit events, always photographed delivering symbolic checks and hugging underprivileged children. Her public image was that of a socialite with social consciousness. "I'm going to visit some of these institutions," decided Olivia. "I want to see what really happens when the cameras aren't there." Nathan showed concern. "Are you sure? This seems like a personal vendetta, not artistic work." "It's journalistic investigation," argued Olivia. "Documentary photography has always had an element of investigative journalism. I want to show the truth behind the facade." Her first visit was to St. Monica's home. Presenting herself as a photographer interested in documenting the work of charity institutions, Olivia managed to talk with the director, Mrs. Clark, a dedicated woman who had been managing the place for 2 decades. "Do you know Jessica Bennett?" she asked casually, while photographing the spaces of the institution. "The influencer?" "Yes, she comes here occasionally for photos." Mrs. Clark's tone was polite but perceptibly reserved. "Does she contribute regularly to the institution?" The director hesitated before answering. "She made a significant donation last year during a benefit event. It was widely publicized. And after that? Well, we haven't received more contributions from her specifically." Throughout the conversation, Olivia discovered that the big donation announced by Jessica, a $100,000 check delivered in a ceremony with media coverage, had never been fully transferred. Only $20,000 actually reached the institution, and the rest was retained for administrative costs of the foundation that Jessica presided over. That first discovery led Olivia to investigate more deeply. She visited 3 other institutions where Jessica had conducted charitable actions, and the pattern repeated. Big announcements, small deliveries. At a community daycare in Southside, she discovered that the boxes of toys donated in a Christmas action contained used and broken items, clearly leftovers from some charity bazaar. "This is revolting," she commented to Nathan while organizing the evidence she had collected. "She uses others' misery to build an image of benevolence, but it's all facade." "We need to be careful, Olivia," warned Nathan. "Jessica has powerful connections. If we include these discoveries in the exhibition, we need to have irrefutable proof." "I'm documenting everything," assured Olivia. "Testimonials, photographs, comparisons between what was announced and what was delivered. It's serious journalistic work." As the investigation progressed, Olivia discovered more. The foundation presided over by Jessica, theoretically dedicated to supporting vulnerable communities, spent 70% of its resources on gala events and advertising campaigns. Only a fraction actually reached those in need. Even more serious, through a contact at the IRS that Samantha knew, Olivia obtained information suggesting that the foundation might be being used for money laundering and tax evasion. Companies linked to Henry's family made donations to the foundation and received tax benefits, while the money circulated back through overpriced consultancies. "This is more serious than we imagined," said Nathan, analyzing the documents that Olivia had obtained. "It's not just vanity and hypocrisy, there may be tax crimes involved." "We need to expose this," insisted Olivia, her sense of justice inflamed. "We can't let them continue exploiting vulnerable people for their own benefit." "I agree, but perhaps the art exhibition is not the adequate medium. This is material for an investigative report, maybe even for the public prosecutor's office." Olivia reflected on Nathan's words. He was right. Her discoveries went beyond the artistic scope they had planned for contrasts. At the same time, she felt an almost visceral urgency to expose Jessica's true face. "I'll reach out to a journalist I know at the Tribune," she finally decided. "She works with investigative reports and could give proper treatment to this information." The journalist, Melissa Roberts, showed immediate interest in the material. After a detailed meeting, where Olivia and Nathan presented all the evidence collected, Melissa confirmed there was potential for a major report. "But we need more," explained the journalist. Testimonies from inside the foundation. Someone who confirms the irregularities. Without that, it's your word against theirs. The opportunity arose unexpectedly. Through a photographers group on WhatsApp, Olivia learned that Jessica's personal assistant had been fired after an argument. The ex-employee, Patricia, was hurt and willing to talk. The meeting with Patricia, in a discreet cafe in Wicker Park, proved to be a goldmine. The ex-assistant confirmed all the suspicions and added new details. Jessica forged receipts, demanded commissions from suppliers, and manipulated numbers to impress potential partners. She made me modify photographs to make events look like they had more people, Patricia recounted. And once she asked me to digitally edit the value of a donated check, doubling the zeros for an Instagram publication. With Patricia's testimony, Melissa had what she needed to formally initiate the journalistic investigation. The process would take several weeks, with a right of reply for Jessica and meticulous verification of each accusation. When this is published, it will cause an earthquake, warned Melissa. Are you prepared for the consequences? The question hung in the air. Olivia and Nathan exchanged glances, aware they were about to challenge someone with power and connections. But their conviction in the justice of what they were doing was stronger than fear. We are, replied Olivia, with Nathan nodding beside her. That night, while organizing the material for the exhibition that would happen in 2 weeks, Nathan received a call from Allison. After a brief conversation, he hung up with a worried expression. What happened? Asked Olivia. It seems Jessica found out about our investigation. She contacted my father, claiming we're in a defamatory campaign against her. Olivia felt a chill. How did she discover? We don't know. Maybe someone at one of the institutions commented about your visits, or Patricia might have spoken to someone else. The important thing is that she's reacting. And what did your father say? He's furious. Sees this as more proof that you're a bad influence. Nathan sighed, running his hand through his hair. Allison tried to calm him down, explained that it's not a personal vendetta, but he won't listen. That night, Olivia barely managed to sleep. The feeling that something bigger was in motion kept her alert. It wasn't just about exposing Jessica or creating a successful exhibition. It was about truth, justice, and the consequences of challenging the status quo. The next morning, upon arriving at the studio, she found an envelope without a return address under the door. Inside, there was only a sheet of paper with a typed message. Watch where you step, photographer. Some stories shouldn't be told. Olivia felt her heart race. The veiled threat confirmed they were on the right track, and that Jessica was willing to do anything to protect her carefully constructed image. Instead of intimidating her, however, the threat strengthened her determination. She photographed the note as evidence and called Melissa. We need to accelerate the publication of the report, she said. Things are heating up. Meanwhile, preparations for the Contrasts exhibition entered the final phase. The photographs were selected, enlarged, and framed. The space at the Flatiron Gallery had been adapted according to Olivia and Nathan's artistic vision. Invitations were sent to art critics, journalists, photographers, and opinion makers. At this point, their relationship was already public knowledge in artistic circles and was beginning to appear in society columns. The rebel Chen and his muse from the outskirts, wrote one columnist, in a tone between joking and romantic. With 1 week to go before the exhibition opening, came the blow they feared. Jessica Bennett announced that she would be launching on the same date a charitable photographic exhibition entitled Two Americas Uniting Through Art, with photographs of emerging artists from underprivileged communities sponsored by her foundation. The coincidence of date and thematic similarity left no doubt. It was a deliberate attempt to overshadow Contrasts and undermine its impact. This is a declared war, commented Samantha when she heard the news. She's trying to steal your concept and neutralize your criticism before you even make it. Olivia felt a momentary anger, soon replaced by a determined calm. This was just another confirmation of Jessica's character, someone who didn't create, just copied and appropriated. We won't change anything, she decided, with Nathan agreeing. Our exhibition has substance, hers is just appearance. We'll let the public and critics judge. On the eve of the opening of the Contrasts exhibition, Olivia's studio buzzed with activity. Samantha checked the list of confirmed guests, while volunteers from the Flatiron Gallery finalized the installation of the last panels. At the center of that whirlwind, Olivia and Nathan worked in perfect sync, adjusting the lighting that would highlight each photograph. All the press invitations are confirmed, informed Samantha, approaching with a clipboard. We'll have representatives from all the major outlets. Even David Reynolds from Channel 7 confirmed his attendance. And the list of collectors and curators? Asked Nathan, descending from the ladder where he was adjusting a spotlight. 15. Confirmed, including the director of the MCA and that French curator you wanted to impress. Olivia smiled, observing the space they had created. The white walls displayed the photographs in a carefully planned visual narrative. On one side, images of the American elite in their bubble of privilege. On the other, portraits of everyday life in the outskirts, housing projects, and rural communities. In the center, an installation with mirrors forced visitors to see themselves reflected between these two worlds. It's perfect, she murmured, feeling a mixture of pride and anxiety. It was her most ambitious work to date, an artistic and political statement that would certainly provoke intense reactions. Nathan's phone rang, interrupting the moment. He looked at the screen with surprise. "It's my sister," he said, moving away to answer. While Nathan spoke quietly in the corner of the gallery, Olivia felt her own phone vibrate. It was Melissa Roberts, the Tribune journalist. "Olivia, we have a problem," said Melissa without preamble. "The report on Jessica's foundation has been temporarily suspended." "What do you mean, suspended?" Olivia felt a chill in her stomach. "Why?" "Pressure from above. It seems her husband Henry has connections with one of the paper's main advertisers. They're demanding more verifications before publication." "That's censorship," protested Olivia, attracting glances from those present. She lowered her voice. "We have all the evidence, testimonies, documents. I know, and I continue defending the report internally, but it will be delayed. It won't come out before your exhibition as we had planned." After hanging up, Olivia felt a mixture of anger and impotence. It was the kind of situation that confirmed everything they denounced in Contrasts, the elite's power to silence, criticism, and manipulate the narrative. Nathan returned from his call with an equally disturbed expression. "Allison says my parents found out about the investigation against Jessica. Apparently Henry Ashford personally called my father, claiming we're in a defamation campaign motivated by envy and resentment." Olivia let out an exasperated sigh. "The Tribune report has been suspended. Pressure from advertisers." Nathan nodded, as if already expecting something like this. They play by their rules on a board they've controlled for generations. "And what do we do now?" Nathan took Olivia's hands in his eyes conveying a serene determination. "We continue with our plan. The exhibition speaks for itself. If we can't count on the report to expose Jessica's hypocrisy, our art will have to be even more incisive." That night, alone in her apartment while Nathan resolved final details at the gallery, Olivia received an unexpected visit. The doorbell rang at 9 p.m., and through the peephole she saw an elegant figure in the corridor, Emily Chen, Nathan's mother. With her heart racing, she opened the door. "Mrs. Chen," she greeted formally, "Nathan isn't here." "I know," replied Emily, her posture impeccable as always. "It's you I wish to speak with, Miss Sanders. May I come in?" Olivia hesitated only a moment before giving way. Emily entered, discreetly observing the small apartment with its simple furniture and walls, covered with photographs. "Beautiful images," she commented, pausing before a black and white portrait of Olivia's mother. "There's honesty in them." "Thank you," replied Olivia, surprised by the unexpected compliment. "Would you like tea or coffee?" "Tea would be pleasant, thank you." While Olivia prepared the tea in the small kitchen, she felt the weight of Emily's gaze. The Chen matriarch emanated an aura of serene authority, so different from Gerald's explosiveness. "I imagine you're wondering about the reason for my visit," said Emily, accepting the cup Olivia offered her. "I confess I am." Emily took a small sip before speaking. "I came to better know the woman who transformed my son." "It wasn't I who transformed him, Mrs. Chen. Nathan simply found the courage to be who he really is." An almost imperceptible smile appeared on Emily's lips. "Perhaps, but you were the catalyst." She paused. "You know, when Nathan was a child, he was always different from Allison. While she naturally embraced family traditions and expectations, he questioned everything. Why, Mum? Why do things have to be this way?" Olivia smiled, recognizing the Nathan she knew in that description. "We pressured him to conform," continued Emily with a touch of melancholy. "We thought it was for his own good to preserve everything we built." Her eyes met Olivia's. "But since he met you, Nathan seems more alive. Gerald can't see that yet, but I can." "You don't disapprove of our relationship?" asked Olivia, surprised by the direction of the conversation. "I won't lie," replied Emily frankly. "You're not the type of woman I imagined for my son, but I also can't deny the sparkle I see in his eyes when he talks about you, or the quality of the work you're creating together." Olivia felt a wave of emotion she didn't expect. Emily's recognition, even if partial, meant a lot. "However," continued the matriarch, her tone hardening slightly, "I am concerned about this investigation against Jessica Bennett. It's dangerous to make powerful enemies, Miss Sanders." "We aren't inventing anything, Mrs. Chen. We're just documenting the truth. Truth is a powerful weapon, but double-edged." Emily placed her cup on the table. "Jessica and Henry have connections with people who can destroy careers, close doors, ruin reputations. They're already pressuring our family, threatening to break decades-old business partnerships." "I'm sorry about that," said Olivia sincerely. "We never wanted to harm your family." "I know that." Emily rose with elegance. "I came here today not to ask you to give up, but to warn you. Be prepared for the consequences and—" She briefly hesitated. "To say that, regardless of what Gerald may express publicly, you have my discreet support." Those words took Olivia completely by surprise. "Why?" Emily smiled, now more openly. "Because a mother recognizes when her son has found his true path, and because, against all expectations, I'm beginning to admire your courage, Miss Sanders." After Emily's departure, Olivia remained seated for long minutes, processing the surreal conversation. When Nathan arrived an hour later, she related, "Everything, watching his expression change from surprise to emotion. My mother came here and said that. She's always been the most fervent guardian of family traditions. I think she's beginning to see beyond appearances," replied Olivia, embracing him, "like a good photographer would." The next morning, the day of the exhibition opening, newspapers carried large advertisements for Jessica's benefit event, Two Americas, Uniting Through Art. The ostentatious publicity highlighted the confirmed presence of celebrities, politicians, and influential business people. In contrast, contrasts received only small mentions in the cultural sections. "She's using all her media power to overshadow." "Has," commented Samantha, leafing through the newspapers at the improvised breakfast in the gallery, where they had spent the night finalizing the last details. "Let her try," replied Olivia with serenity. "Our strength is in the content, not the spectacle." At 7 p.m., the Flatiron Gallery opened its doors for the vernissage of Contrasts. Olivia and Nathan's expectation was for a modest audience, mainly from artistic and academic circles. To their surprise, a line formed on the sidewalk, extending for almost a block. "What's happening?" asked Olivia to Samantha, who was checking the guest list at the entrance. "I'm not sure," replied the assistant, excited. "It seems like something on social media boosted the interest. We're receiving people who weren't even on our list." The explanation came minutes later, when Melissa Roberts arrived, radiant. "You won't believe it, an informant leaked parts of our investigation to The Intercept. They published a preliminary article online 2 hours ago, with some of the evidence we collected about Jessica's foundation. It's exploding on social media." The impact was immediate. As visitors toured the exhibition, many commented on the report, establishing connections with the photographs that denounced social hypocrisy. Art critics, journalists, and digital influencers recorded everything on their cell phones, sharing impressions in real time. In the center of the gallery, the installation with mirrors became especially powerful in that context. Visitors literally saw themselves reflected between images of privilege and poverty, forced to question their own role in that social dynamic. At 9 p.m., when the exhibition reached its peak attendance, a murmur at the entrance announced the arrival of unexpected visitors. Alison Chen, elegant in a minimalist black dress, accompanied by none other than Emily and Gerald. Nathan paled upon seeing his parents entering the gallery. Gerald, leaning on a cane, seemed simultaneously uncomfortable and curious. Emily, on the other hand, maintained a serene posture, as if her presence there was the most natural thing in the world. "My parents came," murmured Nathan, squeezing Olivia's hand. "I can't believe it." "It was your mother's idea," explained Alison, approaching the couple. She convinced Dad that regardless of the circumstances, a Chen always supports family in important moments. Olivia observed how Gerald examined the photographs with genuine attention, occasionally asking questions to Emily in Mandarin. Despite the evident tension in his posture, there was also a curiosity he couldn't hide. "Go talk to them," encouraged Olivia. "This is a moment for bridges, not walls." Nathan nodded and walked toward his parents. Olivia observed them from afar, noticing how Gerald initially maintained an impassive expression, but gradually began to gesture as he discussed the photographs with his son. It wasn't complete reconciliation, but it was a beginning. Meanwhile, Jessica's Two Americas exhibition was happening in a luxurious space in Gold Coast, a few miles away. According to messages arriving through mutual friends, the event was filled with celebrities and high society figures, but the buzz about the Intercept's report was beginning to circulate, generating conversations in discreet corners and suspicious looks. Around 10 p.m., when critics and journalists were already circulating between the two exhibitions, it became clear which one had conquered artistic legitimacy. While Two Americas was described as aesthetically pleasing but superficial, Contrasts received praise for its brutal honesty and unique perspective on American inequality. "You did it," said Melissa, approaching Olivia and Nathan with a glass of sparkling wine. The truth prevailed. "Not completely yet," replied Olivia. "The full report needs to come to light with all the evidence." "It will happen," assured the journalist. "The leak to The Intercept changed the game. Now the subject is on the public agenda, and my editors can no longer ignore it. We're finalizing the article for publication in Sunday's edition." At 11 p.m., when the vernissage officially ended, the gallery was still full. Influential critics had published highly favorable preliminary analyses on their blogs and social networks. One of them, Matthew Torres, a respected professor of visual arts at the University of Chicago, described Contrasts as a watershed in American documentary photography, uniting aesthetic rigor and social consciousness in a way rarely seen. As the last visitors said goodbye, Olivia noticed Gerald Chen standing before one of her favorite photographs. A diptych showing on one side the calloused hands of her mother, Donna, and on the other the perfectly manicured hands of a socialite. Holding a champagne glass, she cautiously approached the patriarch. "This is my mother," she said quietly, indicating the first image. "She worked as a housekeeper her whole life." Gerald stared at her for a long moment before responding. "My mother also had hands like this." His voice was hoarse, laden with contained emotion. "She worked harvesting in California, never managed to completely remove the dirt from under her nails." That simple, honest confession created an unexpected connection between them. Behind the successful businessman was also the son of immigrants who had known hard work and discrimination. "Your work with Nathan," continued Gerald, choosing his words carefully, "is very different from what I expected. It has dignity." "Thank you, Mr. Chen," replied Olivia, feeling the weight of that reluctant recognition. "I'm not saying I approve of everything," he quickly added, as if afraid of having yielded too much. but I'm beginning to understand what my son sees in you and in the work you do together. When the Chen family finally departed, with promises of a family lunch on Sunday, "If you're not too busy with your sudden fame," joked Allison, Olivia and Nathan allowed themselves a moment of private celebration. Alone in the now empty gallery, they embraced in silence, the photographs around them witnessing their journey. "We did it," murmured Nathan, gently kissing Olivia's forehead. "Against all odds." "It's just the beginning," she replied, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and euphoria. "We still have much to document, many truths to reveal." That night, while the city slept, 2 exhibitions told very different stories about America. One of them, gleaming and expensive, tried to maintain the facade of a world of appearances. The other, honest and visceral, was beginning to crack the foundations of that same facade. And in a small apartment in Pilsen, Olivia and Nathan fell asleep in each other's arms, exhausted but at peace, knowing they had remained true to themselves and their art, regardless of the consequences. Sunday dawned with the headline that would definitively change the course of the story. Facade Philanthropy: The Truth Behind the Bennett Foundation. The double-page report in the Chicago Tribune, signed by Melissa Roberts, detailed all the evidence collected by Olivia during her investigation: misappropriation of donations, forged charitable events, manipulation of numbers, possible tax crimes. Olivia's phone didn't stop ringing from 7 in the morning. Journalists, other media outlets, fellow photographers, all wanted to hear her testimony, understand how the investigation began. From her apartment in Pilsen, she observed the media storm she had helped unleash. "You've become an overnight celebrity," commented Nathan, serving coffee to both while they monitored the online repercussions. "That's not what I wanted," replied Olivia, genuinely uncomfortable with the attention. "I just wanted to expose the truth." Truth rarely stays in the background, especially when revealed so powerfully. Social media was buzzing. The Contrasts exhibition, which was supposed to last only 2 weeks, now had lines of visitors doubling the block. The Flatiron Gallery announced extended hours and the hiring of additional security to handle the unexpected public. Meanwhile, Jessica's empire of appearances was rapidly crumbling. Brands that sponsored her began suspending contracts, citing re-evaluation of partnerships. Her Two Americas exhibition was abruptly closed under the pretext of emergency renovations to the space. On social media, her once impeccable profile was now flooded with critical comments and accusations. Around 11 a.m., as Olivia and Nathan prepared for the promised lunch with the Chen family, they received an unexpected notification. Jessica had published a video, visibly emotional, announcing her temporary withdrawal from the foundation's presidency to allow full transparency in the investigations. "Classic public relations strategy," observed Nathan as they watched the video. "Step aside before being removed, pretend cooperation to gain sympathy." "She's desperate," agreed Olivia. "Her house of cards is collapsing." The restaurant chosen for the family lunch was Lao Beijing, a refined Chinese establishment in Chinatown. Emily's choice wasn't casual. It represented a middle ground between Nathan and Olivia's worlds, a space that honored Chinese tradition but was geographically close to the bohemian universe the couple inhabited. When they arrived, they found the entire Chen family already accommodated in a private room. Gerald, still with a reserved expression but visibly less hostile than before. Emily, elegant and serene as always. Allison, accompanied by her husband Richard. And, to Nathan's surprise, his uncle Kevin, Gerald's younger brother, known for his progressive positions within the family. "Uncle Kevin," exclaimed Nathan, genuinely happy. "I didn't know you'd be in Chicago." "I came especially to see your exhibition, nephew," replied the 60-year-old man with a warm smile, "and to meet the photographer who's revolutionizing our family dynamics." The lunch began with the typical formality of Chen family gatherings, but gradually acquired a more relaxed tone. Kevin, a university sociology professor, showed particular interest in Olivia's work. "Your photographic approach has an almost anthropological quality," he commented, after Olivia showed some images on her cell phone. "You managed to capture not just individuals, but the social systems that shape them." "That's exactly what I seek," replied Olivia, feeling at ease with Nathan's uncle. "Photography, for me, is a tool for understanding and social transformation." Gerald, who until then had remained relatively silent, intervened. "Social transformation is a considerable ambition for a young photographer." There was a moment of tension, but Gerald's tone wasn't one of criticism, but of genuine curiosity. "I believe art has that power, Mr. Chen," replied Olivia with confidence, "as we could see with the exhibition's repercussions." "Indeed," agreed Gerald, surprising everyone. "The impact you caused is impressive. I didn't expect such repercussion." Nathan looked at his father with astonishment. It was the closest to a compliment he had ever received for his artistic work. "The Ashford Company's shares fell 7% this morning," continued Gerald, always attentive to market movements. "And 3 foundation board members have already resigned. You've triggered a significant domino effect." "It wasn't our initial goal to impact their businesses," explained Nathan. "We just wanted to expose the truth about the exploitation of others' misery for self-promotion." "Sometimes truth has economic consequences," commented Kevin with a shrewd smile, "especially when it exposes corruption disguised as philanthropy." The conversation flowed to other topics, with Emily discreetly asking about Olivia's family, her childhood in Oakland Park, her education. Behind the seemingly casual questions, Olivia perceived the matriarch building a mental map of the woman who had won her son's heart. After dessert, when lunch was already winding down, Gerald made a gesture for everyone to pay attention. His countenance was serious, but there was an unusual softness in his eyes. "I have something important to say," Gerald began, looking directly at Nathan and Olivia. "As you know, I have been resistant to Nathan's choices in recent months." He paused, as if carefully choosing his words. "I believed I was protecting the family legacy, the values that brought us this far." Nathan nodded without interrupting. "It was rare to see his father in a moment of vulnerability. But yesterday, when visiting your exhibition, something changed within me," continued Gerald. "I saw not just photographs, but a truth I had forgotten, that our own family came from humble origins, that we faced prejudice and difficulties. That true value isn't in titles or bank accounts, but in dignity and authenticity." The emotion was palpable around the table. Emily discreetly held her husband's hand, encouraging him to continue. "Therefore, I've decided on 2 important matters. First, Nathan will be reinstated to the Chen Foundation's board, with full autonomy to direct the visual arts division according to his vision." He looked at Olivia. "And you, Miss Sanders, are officially invited to be a guest curator for our next annual exhibition." Olivia felt speechless. It was an unexpected and deeply significant offer, not just a family reconciliation, but a high-level professional recognition. "Second," continued Gerald, "after discussing with Emily and Allison, we decided that the Chen Foundation will establish a permanent scholarship program for young photographers from underprivileged communities, inspired by the work you accomplished in Contrasts." Nathan couldn't contain his emotion. That gesture represented more than acceptance. It was the validation of everything he had always believed, proof that his family was capable of evolution and growth. "Dad, this is," he began, but words failed. "It's the least we can do," completed Gerald with a small smile. "After all, a true legacy isn't built by maintaining immutable traditions, but by adapting them to new times without losing their essence." The lunch ended in a climate of reconciliation and new possibilities. On the way back to Olivia's apartment, she and Nathan could barely process everything that had happened in the last 48 hours. The resounding success of the exhibition, Jessica's downfall, the reconciliation with the Chen family. "It feels like a dream," commented Olivia, looking out the car window as they crossed Michigan Avenue, now bathed in the Sunday afternoon sun. "So much has changed in so little time." "It's just the beginning," replied Nathan, holding her hand. We have much more to build together. The next morning, while the scandal involving the Bennett Foundation continued to unfold in the media, with official investigations being announced by regulatory agencies, Olivia received an unexpected message. It was from her mother, Donna, asking her to call urgently. With her heart racing, fearing some family problem, Olivia called immediately. "Mom, did something happen?" "Daughter," Donna's voice was choked, but with emotion, not sadness. "I just left the supermarket, and Mrs. Wilson from the bakery showed me the newspaper. You're on the front page, my daughter photographing the rich and unmasking the fakes." Olivia laughed, relieved and moved by her mother's reaction. "It's important work, Mum. We're showing the truth behind appearances." "Your father won't stop telling everyone at the bus stop. My daughter, the famous photographer." Donna paused. "And this Asian man who appears in the photos with you, is he your boyfriend?" Olivia smiled, looking at Nathan, who was working on his laptop across the room. "Yes, Mom, he's Nathan. I want you to meet him officially. Can we have lunch together next Sunday?" "Of course, daughter. I'll make that pot roast you like. Does he eat American food? Or do I need to learn to make Chinese food? He loves pot." "A roast, Mom, don't worry." After hanging up, Olivia felt a wave of gratitude for the simplicity and authenticity of her family. Despite all the changes in her life, that connection remained solid, a constant reminder of her roots and values. In Hawaii, the following weeks, the Contrasts exhibition was extended for another month due to incessant demand. International critics began reporting on the phenomenon, with publications like The Guardian and Le Monde sending correspondents to cover what they called the American photographic revolution. Jessica Bennett's fate followed the expected path. After preliminary investigations confirmed the allegations, she announced a sabbatical period for reflection and spiritual renewal in Portugal, clearly fleeing from public scrutiny. Her foundation was completely restructured, now under the supervision of an independent board that would ensure donations actually reached their recipients. For Olivia and Nathan, success brought new responsibilities and opportunities. Invitations for international exhibitions, lectures at universities, book proposals, but amid the excitement, they remained true to the essence of their work, documenting American reality with honesty and provoking reflection through art. 6. Months after the opening of Contrasts, the Chen Foundation inaugurated its new headquarters in Logan Square, in a former industrial warehouse transformed into a cultural center. The space, much larger than the previous one, included not only exhibition galleries, but also studios for resident artists, classrooms for young people from the outskirts, and a photographic documentation center of American reality. The inaugural exhibition, Roots and Wings, curated by Olivia, presented works by 10 young photographers from peripheral communities, selected through the scholarship program created by Gerald. The powerful images, which portrayed everything from daily life in housing projects to cultural celebrations in rural communities, revealed talents that, without the program, might never have had the opportunity to show their perspective to the world. On opening night, Olivia proudly observed the young photographers interacting with curators, critics, and collectors. Her parents, Donna and Martin, timidly circulated through the space, still not entirely comfortable in that environment, but visibly proud of their daughter. Beside them, surprisingly at ease, were Gerald and Emily Chen, who had insisted on meeting Olivia's parents weeks earlier, and, against all expectations, developed a genuine connection based on shared experiences of hard work and sacrifices for their children. Nathan approached, handing a glass of champagne to Olivia. "To the success of the new generation," he toasted, indicating the young photographers with a gesture. "To the truth behind appearances," replied Olivia, touching her glass to his. As they observed the crowd, Nathan discreetly took a small box from his pocket. "I wasn't planning to do this here," he said with a nervous smile. "But seeing our families united, our work flourishing, it seems like the perfect moment." Olivia felt her heart race as she realized what was happening. Olivia Sanders, continued Nathan, opening the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring with a natural bluestone, not an ostentatious diamond, but an American aquamarine. You transformed my life by showing me the value of authenticity and courage. Will you build a future with me, uniting our perspectives to continue revealing the truth of this country? With tears in her eyes, Olivia felt all the pieces of her life fitting together perfectly. From a girl from the outskirts to a recognized photographer, from a solitary observer to part of a powerful partnership, her journey had been about remaining true to herself, even when it would have been easier to yield to pressures and appearances. Yes, she answered simply, allowing Nathan to slide the ring onto her finger. Yes to a life of truth, even when it's difficult. Around them, without their initially realizing it, a small crowd had formed. Their parents, the Chen family, the young photographers, friends and colleagues. When the kiss that sealed the commitment ended, they were greeted by spontaneous applause and emotional congratulations. Later that night, when guests began to disperse, Olivia found a moment of quietude in one of the gallery rooms. Before her, a wall displayed side by side the first photograph she had taken professionally, a black and white portrait of her mother, and the most recent, captured the week before, Gerald and Martin, Nathan's father and her own father, animatedly conversing during a barbecue in the simple backyard of the house in Oakland Park. Those images, separated by years of experience and growth, told not only her personal story, but the story of an America where seemingly distant worlds could meet and recognize shared humanity. The true essence is beyond appearances, thought Olivia, contemplating the path traveled. And authentic love, grounded in respect and truth, can truly transcend any social barrier. From across the room, Nathan was talking with one of the young photographers, enthusiastically gesturing while explaining lighting techniques. Their gazes met across the space, and in that silent moment of connection, Olivia was certain she had chosen to remain true to herself and her art, and had found in the process not only professional success, but also a love that valued exactly what she was, authentic, determined, and true. And as Chicago shone outside, its lights reflecting in the gallery windows like artificial stars, Olivia Sanders knew that her journey, far from ending, was just beginning. With the camera as a weapon and truth as a guide, she would continue to capture and